Nobody prepares you for the arithmetic of time. After 40, time stops being generous. Mistakes stop being educational. Losses stop being recoverable. The rules you were taught stop working. This audiobook exists for one reason: to show you how wealth after 40 gets built by avoiding ruin, protecting compounding, and mastering your own behavior. Not brilliance, precision. Chapter 1. Time is no longer neutral. Time is a friend of the wonderful company, the enemy of the mediocre. Warren Buff. ITT. Time used to feel generous, like an open road with no end in sight. You could miss a turn. You could speed. You could slow down. You believed time would forgive you. After 40, time changes its posture. It no longer waits. It no longer absorbs mistakes quietly. It no longer pretends losses are temporary. This is not fear. This is clarity. Time is no longer neutral. When you were younger, time acted like water. You spilled some, it refilled itself. You wasted some, it did not complain. After 40, time becomes fire. It forges or it burns. Nothing in between. This is where most people fail. They keep playing the same game with a different clock. They use strategies built for long runways while standing near the edge of the runway. You feel it even if you do not name it. A quiet pressure behind your decisions. A weight behind every risk. A voice that asks, what if I do not recover? That voice is not weakness. It is intelligence waking up. Age changes the math of wealth because it changes the relationship between loss and recovery. Loss is no longer an inconvenience. It becomes a fracture. When you lose money at 25, you lose dollars. When you lose money at 45, you lose time, confidence, momentum, and optionality. The wound cuts deeper because the healing window shrinks. This is not pessimism. This is arithmetic meeting biology. Your nervous system knows this even when your ego refuses it. Your body feels risk differently now. Your mind scans for danger faster. Your sleep reacts to volatility. Your patience wears thinner under uncertainty. That is not decline. That is awareness. Loss after 40 hurts more because it carries identity with it. It is no longer about numbers on a screen. It is about dignity, about stability, about the future version of you watching quietly from ahead. When you lose at this stage, you do not only ask, how do I recover? You ask, who do I become now? Recovery time becomes your most scarce asset because compounding is obedient to time alone. It does not negotiate. It does not reward effort. It only multiplies duration. A setback at 30 is a detour. A setback at 50 is a delay you feel in your bones. Think of wealth like a tree. In your 20s and 30s, you are planting. You water carelessly. You bend branches. You trim aggressively. After 40, the roots matter more than the height. You stop yanking at the trunk and start protecting the soil. This is the moment where wisdom replaces bravado. Chasing returns feels productive. Protecting capital feels boring. But boring is what keeps the lights on when storms arrive. After 40, the job is not to impress the scoreboard. The job is to stay in the game. Many people confuse growth with motion. They trade constantly. They switch strategies. They react to noise. They call it staying active. But motion is not progress. Motion without direction is erosion. The wealth destroyer at this stage is not ignorance. It is interruption. Every time you panic sell, you reset the clock. Every time you chase excitement, you fracture compounding. Every time you borrow confidence from the future, you mortgage peace in the present. Compounding is quiet. It grows in the dark. It hates drama. It rewards stillness. Protecting capital is not fear. It is reverence for time. Imagine time as a river. Earlier in life, you could swim against it and still reach shore. Now the current moves faster. The water is colder. The margin for error shrinks. So you stop thrashing. You learn to float. You learn to read the current. You learn where not to swim. This is a shift. Not maximizing upside. Minimizing permanent damage. Permanent damage is not losing money. Permanent damage is losing the ability to recover. This is why leverage becomes dangerous now. This is why emotional decisions become expensive now. This is why volatility without purpose becomes destructive now. Time no longer forgives stupidity. There's freedom in accepting this. When you stop pretending time is neutral, you stop lying to yourself. And when the lies stop, power returns. You begin to choose differently. You choose stability over excitement. You choose clarity over hope. You choose preparation over prediction. Look at people who survive storms later in life. They are not louder. They are not flashier. They are rooted. The entrepreneur who quietly built reserves before expansion. The professional who kept skills sharp while others coasted. The investor who sat on cash while others chased headlines. They were not lucky. They respected time. Your nervous system wants safety now because safety creates longevity. Longevity creates compounding. Compounding creates freedom. This is not about shrinking your ambition. It is about refining it. Ambition at 25 is speed. Ambition at 45 is durability. Think like a craftsman now. Every cut deliberate. Every tool respected. Every mistake expensive. Time is no longer neutral, means every decision carries weight. But weight creates meaning. You stop asking how fast can this grow. You start asking what could destroy this. That question changes everything. When you remove the paths to ruin, the path to wealth becomes obvious, less crowded, less stressful, more humane. This is the spiritual edge of maturity. You no longer need to prove. You need to preserve. Fire teaches this lesson. Uncontrolled fire destroys forests. Contained fire forges steel. You are no longer meant to burn wildly. You are meant to forge. Time sharpens you when you listen to it. It punishes you when you ignore it. So listen now. Protect what you have built, not from fear, from wisdom. Honor the years ahead by respecting the years behind. Let patience replace impulse. Let structure replace chaos. Let calm replace noise. You are not late. You are precise. Time is no longer neutral. It is an ally when you act with intention, an enemy when you gamble with ego. Stand with it, let it work, and rise with discipline. Chapter 2. Arithmetic beats optimism. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Aldous Huxley. Why? Optimism feels good. It warms the chest. It lifts the mood. It tells your nervous system everything will work out. Arithmetic does not care. This chapter is where fantasy burns off, not to punish you, to free you, because after 40, optimism without discipline is not hope, it is exposure. You have been trained to believe confidence creates results. Speak it, visualize it, believe hard enough, but numbers do not listen. They do not negotiate. They do not bend to belief. Arithmetic beats optimism every single time. A loss is not symmetrical. This is where most people break their future. If you lose 10%, you do not need 10% to recover. You need more. If you lose 30%, the climb back steepens. If you lose half, you are staring at a mountain. This is not drama. This is math doing its quiet work. Loss digs a hole. Recovery builds a ladder. The deeper the hole, the longer the ladder. Your mind hates this truth because it threatens comfort. So it tells stories. It says, markets come back. It says, I will make it up later. It says, this time is different. Arithmetic does not recognize later. It only recognizes rate, base, and time. Think of wealth like firewood. When you are young, you throw logs carelessly. You waste heat. You misjudge flames. You assume more wood will come. Later, every log matters. Every wasted piece shortens a night. Compounding is the most misunderstood force in wealth. People admire its upside. They ignore its fragility. Compounding is not powerful because it grows fast. It is powerful because it grows uninterrupted. Interrupt it once and it stumbles. Interrupt it twice and it limps. Interrupt it often enough and it never stands again. This is where panic does its damage. Panic is not loud screaming. It is quiet rationalization under stress. You tell yourself you are being prudent. You tell yourself you will re-enter later. You tell yourself you are protecting what remains. But the moment you step out emotionally, you fracture the curve. The curve is everything. Picture compounding as a river carving stone. It works slowly, relentlessly, invisible until the canyon appears. Panic is pulling the river away from the rock. Even briefly, The carving stops. And the river never apologizes for time lost. Impatience does the same damage from the other side. You see others moving. You feel still. Stillness feels like falling behind. So you act, not because it is right, because it is uncomfortable to wait. Impatience whispers urgency into your ear. It tells you something must be done now. It disguises anxiety as action. This is how decades get erased. One emotional exit, one impulsive entry, one borrowed shortcut. You do not need to be reckless to destroy compounding. You only need to interrupt it. Arithmetic punishes interruption because it compounds both ways. Loss compounds too. A setback does not only reduce your balance, it reduces the base future growth depends on. This is why chasing recovery is dangerous. You feel pressure to get back to even. So you increase risk. You reach. You speed. Speed increases volatility. Volatility increases emotion. Emotion increases mistakes. The spiral tightens. Optimism tells you confidence will pull you through. Arithmetic tells you restraint would have prevented the fall. This is the moment where maturity steps in. Optimism is emotional fuel. Arithmetic is structural truth. Fuel without structure creates fire. Structure without fuel creates endurance. After 40, endurance wins. Your brain evolved to survive threats, not to manage exponential curves. Under stress, it wants certainty. It wants relief. So when markets shake, your nervous system screams. Do something. Anything. Doing nothing feels like danger. It feels irresponsible. But often, doing nothing is the most responsible act. Waiting is not passive. Waiting is disciplined restraint in the presence of noise. Arithmetic rewards the person who can sit in uncertainty without flinching. This is where spiritual maturity meets financial reality. Stillness is not weakness. It is command. Look at the people who endure across cycles. They are not the most optimistic. They are the most disciplined. They respect drawdowns. They design for survival. They assume mistakes will happen and build buffers around them. They understand a brutal truth. You cannot outperform arithmetic. You can only align with it. Alignment looks boring from the outside, predictable, unremarkable, but inside it creates calm. Calm keeps you in the game. Staying in the game is the whole game. Every time you override arithmetic with hope, you gamble with time. And time is the one thing you cannot replace. This is why numbers matter more now. Not to limit you, to protect you. Arithmetic is not the enemy of dreams. It is the guardian of them. Dreams die when math is ignored. You do not need heroic returns. You need survivable ones. You do not need perfect timing. You need consistency. You do not need confidence. You need discipline. Discipline sounds rigid, but discipline creates freedom. Freedom from panic. Freedom from regret. Freedom from restarting. Your future self does not need you to be bold. It needs you to be intact. Optimism says it will work out. Arithmetic asks, at what cost? When you respect arithmetic, decisions slow down. Emotions quiet. The urge to act fades. You stop asking how much can I make? You start asking what could break me. That question sharpens everything. This is not about fear. It is about reverence. Reverence for time. Reverence for compounding. Reverence for the fragile beauty of progress. Fire teaches this lesson again. A wildfire fueled by optimism destroys everything. A controlled flame guided by structure forges tools. You are not here to burn wildly. You are here to build something that lasts. Arithmetic is the blueprint. Numbers do not respond to confidence. They only respond to discipline. Stand in that truth. Align with it. And let endurance become your edge. Chapter 3. Inversion is the real strategy. It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid, instead of trying to be very intelligent. Charlie Munger. Most people start the wealth journey by asking the wrong question. They ask how to win, how to beat the market, how to find the next big move, how to look smart doing it. That question feels exciting. It feeds the ego. It promises speed. But after 40, speed is no longer your friend. There is a deeper question, a quieter one, a question that sounds almost boring until you understand its force. Where does ruin live? This is inversion. And inversion is the real strategy. Inversion means you stop chasing brilliance and start eliminating stupidity. You stop hunting upside and start sealing off downside. You stop asking how high can this go and start asking how this could destroy me. That single shift changes everything. Think of inversion like turning the map upside down. Most people stare at the destination. The wise stare at the cliffs. They do not ask how fast they can drive. They ask where the road ends. Avoiding disaster matters more than finding winners because disaster ends a game. Winners only matter if you are still standing to enjoy them. This is the part nobody wants to hear because it does not feel heroic. But survival is the most underrated skill in wealth. You do not need to be extraordinary to build wealth after 40. You need to be intact. Every financial collapse follows the same pattern. Not ignorance, not lack of opportunity. Blind spots. Blind spots dressed up as confidence. Blind spots fueled by emotion. Blind spots protected by denial. Inversion shines a light directly into those dark corners. Instead of asking what investment could double my money, you ask what decision could cut it in half. Instead of asking how do I grow faster, you ask what could permanently slow me down. Instead of asking how do I look smart, you ask how do I avoid looking foolish later. This is not pessimism. This is precision. Wealth builders eliminate obvious errors first because obvious errors compound against you. Quietly, relentlessly. Debt used for speculation. Emotional exits. Overconfidence outside competence. Lifestyle inflation that strangles savings. Trust broken through inconsistency. None of these look dramatic in the moment. They look reasonable. They sound explainable. Until you look back and realize they stacked on top of each other and build a wall you cannot climb. Inversion clears that wall before it is built. Picture your financial life as a long bridge. Every mistake removes a support beam. You do not feel it at first. The bridge still stands. But one storm later, it collapses. Inversion asks you to walk underneath the bridge and inspect the beams before you drive faster. This is why survival creates opportunity. Opportunity does not reward brilliance first. It rewards availability. The person who still has capital when panic arrives wins. The person who still has trust when chaos hits gets the call. The person who still has emotional control when others lose their sees clearly. Survival is not passive. It is strategic positioning. Most people blow themselves up before opportunity ever shows up. They mistake motion for progress. They confuse activity with intelligence. They want to feel clever now and pay for it later. Inversion delays gratification in exchange for endurance. Think of fire again. A reckless flame consumes everything in reach. A controlled flame warms a room all night. After 40, you are no longer here to spark fires for attention. You are here to build heat that lasts. This is why avoiding obvious errors produces such massive advantage, because most people never do it. They step into debt because it looks efficient. They chase trends because everyone else is moving. They overextend because confidence feels like control. Inversion strips those illusions away. It forces you to ask uncomfortable questions. What if I am wrong? What if this goes against me? What if I am overestimating my skill? Those questions feel threatening to the ego. They are protective to the future. Inversion teaches humility without weakness. You are not shrinking your ambition. You are hardening it. Every great builder understands this principle instinctively. They do not start by decorating the house. They start by testing the foundation. Cracks ignored early become collapses later. Wealth builders who last are not lucky. They are cautious in the right places. They do not flirt with ruin. They do not test the edges unnecessarily. They do not rely on hope to rescue bad structure. They understand one brutal truth. You only need one catastrophic mistake to erase decades of progress. One. That is why avoiding ruin beats finding winners. Finding winners helps. Avoiding ruin is essential. This is where age becomes an advantage. If you let it, after 40, you have seen patterns repeat. You have watched cycles rise and fall. You have seen confident people disappear quietly. You have enough data now to know what not to do. Inversion is the wisdom of using that data honestly. You stop saying this time is different. You stop believing rules bend for you. You stop trusting enthusiasm over structure. You begin to see clearly. Survival creates opportunity because opportunity is selective. It appears when others are distracted. It rewards those who waited without rotting. Waiting is not empty time. It is preparation. The farmer does not plant seeds during the storm. He prepares the soil long before it rains. Inversion is soil preparation. You eliminate fragility. You reduce exposure. You simplify decisions. And in that simplicity, strength emerges. When chaos arrives, your mind stays quiet. Your hand stays steady. Your options stay open. That is when opportunity finds you. Success after 40 starts by knowing where ruin lives and refusing to go there. Ruin lives in leverage without margin. Ruin lives in ego without competence. Ruin lives in emotion without restraint. Ruin lives in lifestyle without discipline. You do not need to explore those places. Others already have. Learn from their ashes. Inversion is not about fear. It is about respect. Respect for time. Respect for compounding. Respect for how fragile progress truly is. Once you eliminate the paths to ruin, the path forward clears itself. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop chasing noise. You stop bleeding energy. What remains is quiet power. Power that waits. Power that watches. Power that acts only when the odds are tilted. This is the mindset shift that separates midlife struggle from midlife mastery. You stop trying to be impressive. You start trying to be unbreakable. That is not a small change. It is a rebirth. So ask yourself now, honestly, where does ruin live in my life? What behaviors quietly sabotage me? What patterns repeat when pressure rises? Then do the courageous thing. Refuse to go there. Seal the exits to disaster. Protect your downside. Honor survival. From that place, opportunity will rise to meet you. Stand firm in this truth. Inversion is not the absence of ambition. It is ambition with wisdom. And wisdom is what carries you forward, intact. Chapter 4. The 5 behaviors that destroy wealth. More people are ruined by hope than by fear. Nicholas Chamfort. Destruction rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers. It reassures. It promises tomorrow will fix what today ignores. This chapter is not about markets. It is about behavior. Because wealth does not collapse when prices fall. It collapses when habits rot. Long before numbers turn red, decisions turn sloppy. Long before accounts drain, discipline leaks. Long before disaster strikes, behavior invites it inside. 5 behaviors. Quiet, common, deadly. They do not look dangerous when they begin. They look reasonable. They look justified. They look hopeful. Hope is a disguise. The first behavior is debt used for speculation. Debt feels like speed, like leverage, like intelligence wearing confidence. You tell yourself you are accelerating the process. You tell yourself the returns will outpace the cost. You tell yourself you are different. Debt does not care. Debt adds weight to every decision. It tightens the chest. It shortens patience. It turns small moves into survival threats. Speculative debt is not a tool. It is a trap disguised as efficiency. When borrowed money enters the picture, freedom exits quietly. You stop making choices. You start reacting. Markets move. Interest compounds. And suddenly your future answers to forces you do not control. One unexpected turn, and the floor disappears. Not because the idea was wrong, because the structure was fragile. Fire again teaches this lesson. A controlled flame warms. Fuel poured recklessly explodes. Debt for speculation is fuel poured on uncertainty. The second behavior is spending beyond income. This one hides in plain sight. It looks normal. It looks deserved. You worked hard. You earned it. You will make more later. But spending is a vote. Every purchase votes for a future. And too many people vote against themselves slowly. When spending exceeds income, pressure becomes permanent, not dramatic pressure. Constant pressure. The kind that forces compromise. The kind that steals optionality. The kind that makes every setback catastrophic. Wealth grows in surplus. Freedom breathes in margin. Without margin, life becomes reactive. You take deals you should refuse. You tolerate situations you should exit. You trade dignity for relief. This is not about luxury. It is about alignment. Spending beyond income breaks alignment between effort and outcome. It turns progress into maintenance, maintenance into stress. The third behavior is broken trust through unreliability. This one surprises people because it does not look financial. But trust is currency. Opportunities flow through people. Capital flows through credibility. Growth flows through reputation. Unreliability corrodes all three. When you say you will do something and do not, a crack forms. When you show up inconsistently, another crack forms. When excuses replace ownership, the structure weakens. Over time, people stop calling. Deals stop appearing. Doors close quietly. Not because you are bad, because you are unpredictable. After 40, restarting costs more. Relationships take longer to rebuild. Trust compounds slowly and shatters fast. Reliability is not exciting. It is powerful. It turns your word into an asset. It turns consistency into leverage. Wealth builders protect trust like capital, because without it, capital has nowhere to go. The fourth behavior is intellectual stagnation. This is the silent killer. You stop reading. You stop learning. You assume experience replaces curiosity, but experience without learning becomes rigidity. The world moves. Skills decay. Industries shift. And while you repeat yesterday's thinking, tomorrow passes you by. Intellectual stagnation does not feel like failure at first. It feels like comfort, like familiarity, like competence. Until one day, younger minds with sharper tools step past you, not because they are better, because they are current. Learning keeps your mind elastic. Elastic minds adapt. Rigid minds break. Wealth after 40 demands adaptability, not frantic change. Continuous refinement. Seeds that stop growing rot underground. Minds that stop learning do the same. The fifth behavior is emotion-driven decisions. This is the master destroyer. Emotion feels urgent. Emotion feels justified. Emotion feels true. But emotion distorts perception. Fear shrinks timelines. Greed expands fantasies. Anger narrows vision. Euphoria blinds risk. Under emotional charge, your nervous system hijacks your logic. Your body decides before your mind catches up. This is why intelligent people make catastrophic mistakes. Not from ignorance, from unregulated emotion. One panic exit, one impulsive entry, one reaction disguised as strategy, and years disappear. Emotion is energy. Untrained energy destroys. Trained energy builds. Wealth builders train emotional control before they train tactics, because no strategy survives emotional chaos. These 5 behaviors do not destroy wealth individually. They work as a system. Debt increases pressure. Pressure fuels emotion. Emotion drives poor spending. Poor spending reduces margin. Reduced margin amplifies fear. Fear erodes trust. Trust loss limits opportunity. Stagnation locks you in place. And the cycle tightens. By the time markets turn, the collapse is already underway. This is why wealth collapses through behavior long before markets finish the job. Markets expose weakness. They do not create it. Storms do not destroy strong structures. They reveal weak ones. The good news is this. Behavior is trainable. You are not broken. You are patterned. Patterns can be seen. Seen patterns can be changed. Awareness is the first interruption. Look honestly, not with shame, with clarity. Where does hope replace structure in your life? Where does emotion override discipline? Where does comfort silence growth? This is not about self-attack. It is about self-command. Fire refines when guided, destroys when ignored. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be conscious. Conscious of debt, conscious of spending, conscious of trust, conscious of learning, conscious of emotion. Conscious people build resilient lives. Resilience creates longevity. Longevity creates compounding. Compounding creates freedom. Choose discipline over hope. Choose structure over impulse. Choose consistency over excitement. Stand firm, because when behavior is aligned, markets lose their power to destroy you. And that is where real wealth begins. Chapter 5. The Psychological Traps of Midlife Money. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Midlife is not dangerous because of age. It is dangerous because of interpretation. This is the season where your mind stops experimenting and starts defending. Not defending truth, defending comfort. You wake up one day and realize something subtle has shifted. Your risks feel heavier. Your dreams feel further away. Your thoughts sound more cautious, not wiser. Cautious. And caution, when unexamined, becomes a cage. This chapter is about the traps you do not see because they feel reasonable. They feel mature. They feel responsible. They are psychological disguises, and they quietly shrink your future. The first trap is comfort disguised as safety. Comfort feels calm. It feels stable. It feels earned. You tell yourself you have paid your dues. You have responsibilities now. You cannot afford disruption. So you stay. You stay in routines that no longer stretch you. You stay in roles that no longer challenge you. You stay in financial patterns that keep you afloat but never let you rise. Comfort whispers reassurance. It tells you nothing is wrong. But safety and comfort are not the same. Safety protects life. Comfort protects familiarity. One preserves your future. The other preserves your past. The nervous system loves predictability. It confuses known discomfort with security. This is why people stay in financial situations that drain them slowly. Not because they are weak, because their brain is trying to reduce uncertainty. But growth lives in managed discomfort. Always has. Fire strengthens steel only when heat is intentional. Avoid the heat too long, and the metal weakens. Midlife comfort is not neutral. It is directional. Every year spent choosing ease over expansion trains your identity to expect less. Identity always wins. The second trap is fear disguised as realism. This one sounds intelligent. It uses facts selectively. It quotes statistics without context. You tell yourself you are being realistic. You are not chasing illusions. You are not being naive. But look closer. Fear speaks in finalities. It says it is too late. It says the window has closed. It says you missed your moment. Realism evaluates probabilities. Fear declares verdicts. Realism asks better questions. Fear shuts them down. At midlife, fear gains authority because it wears experience as evidence. You've been burned before. You've seen cycles fail. You know how this story ends. Or so you think. What you really know is how past strategies ended, not what new strategies could create. Fear loves to recycle memory and call it wisdom. But wisdom adapts. Fear freezes. Your mind starts running protective simulations. Imagining losses before gains. Imagining embarrassment before success. Imagining regret before reward. These images feel real. Your body responds as if they're happening now. And so you stop, not because the path is impossible, because the imagined pain feels immediate. This is a trap. You suffer future pain in advance. Pain that never arrives. Meanwhile, the cost of inaction compounds quietly. The third trap is self-pity disguised as justice. This one is heavy, and it is seductive. You tell yourself you deserve better. You worked hard. You did the right things. And you are right. But self-pity turns truth into paralysis. It says the system is unfair. It says others had advantages. It says your effort went unnoticed. Justice focuses on fairness. Agency focuses on power. Self-pity feels morally justified, and that is why it is dangerous. It shifts attention from what you control to what you resent. Resentment drains energy. Energy fuels action. When resentment grows, action shrinks. This is how people become spectators of their own lives. They wait for acknowledgement. They wait for compensation. They wait for life to balance the scales. Life does not balance scales. It responds to movement. Fire does not ask who deserves warmth. It responds to those who approach it correctly. Self-pity keeps you still, and stillness does not attract opportunity. These three traps share a common root. Your mind is trying to protect you from pain, not physical pain, psychological pain, the pain of uncertainty, the pain of failure, the pain of starting again. So it builds stories. Stories that sound reasonable. Stories that sound mature. stories that feel safe. But safety without growth becomes slow erosion. Your future narrows not through catastrophe, but through accommodation. This is the quiet danger of midlife money psychology. You stop asking how high you can go. You start asking how much you can lose. And the question you ask determines the life you build. Your brain prioritizes threat avoidance over opportunity creation. This is biology, not a flaw, but awareness gives you choice. You are not here to eliminate fear. You are here to lead it. You do not silence the mind. You train it. Training starts with noticing. Notice when comfort is guiding decisions. Notice when realism feels heavy and hopeless. Notice when self-pity steals momentum. Not to judge, to interrupt. Interruption creates space. Space allows choice. Choice restores power. Midlife is not the beginning of decline. It is the beginning of discernment. You have pattern recognition now, emotional intelligence, context. What you lack is not capacity. It is permission. Permission to grow again. Permission to be uncomfortable on purpose. Permission to believe forward. Seeds do not argue with the soil about timing. They respond to conditions. You can create conditions. New inputs, new skills, new environments, new conversations. Your mind will resist at first. That is normal. Resistance is not a signal to stop. It is a signal you are stretching identity. Identity reshapes through repeated action, not intention. Small discipline moves retrain your nervous system. They teach it that growth is survivable, that uncertainty is navigable. Each step rewires expectation. This is how fear loses authority, not through motivation, through evidence. You prove to yourself that you move forward without collapse. And once the mind sees that, it loosens its grip. Your future expands again. This chapter is not asking you to gamble. It is asking you to stop shrinking. Stop negotiating with imagined disasters. Stop honoring comfort over calling. Stop feeding stories that limit your reach. You are not here to be preserved. You are here to be expressed. Midlife is not the closing chapter. It is a forging phase. The heat is higher. The stakes are clearer. The time is precious, which is why courage matters more now than ever. Stand up inside your own mind. Question the stories. Challenge the assumptions. Choose growth deliberately. Because the greatest risk at this stage of life is not loss. It is living smaller than your capacity. And you did not come this far to disappear quietly. Rise. Chapter 6. The first 100,000 and the discipline phase. Do not save what is left after spending. Spend what is left after saving. Warren Buffett. The first phase of wealth is not glamorous. It is quiet. It is repetitive. It tests your character long before it rewards your effort. This is where most people quit. Not because they fail. Because nothing seems to happen. You save. You restrain. You say no when others say yes. And the numbers barely move. This is the discipline phase. The forging phase. The phase where identity is built before income multiplies. The first 100,000 feels slow because it is slow, not broken, not unfair, slow by design. Early capital grows under gravity, not momentum. Every contribution feels small. Every sacrifice feels large. Every delay feels personal. Your mind starts asking dangerous questions. Is this worth it? Is this too conservative? Should I push harder? Should I risk more? These questions do not mean you are wrong. They mean the discipline is working. Because discipline always irritates the impatient part of you. In the early stage, effort is visible but reward is not. This creates emotional friction. Your nervous system wants feedback. It wants confirmation. It wants excitement. Saving does not provide excitement. It provides structure. Structure feels boring to an untrained mind. But structure is what turns intention into inevitability. Aggressive saving beats aggressive risk at this stage for one reason: control. Risk adds variables. Saving removes them. Saving trains consistency. Risk trains hope. Hope feels good. Consistency builds wealth. Early capital is fragile, not because it is small, because it has no buffer. One mistake can erase months. One emotional decision can reset years. This is why discipline matters more than intelligence in the beginning. The first 100,000 is not about return. It is about behavior. It teaches you restraint. It teaches you delay. It teaches you to live below identity pressure. Identity pressure is the urge to look successful before being stable. It drains capital quietly. The discipline phase asks a hard question. Who are you without applause? When nobody sees your restraint, when nobody rewards your patience, when nobody validates your choices. This is where wealth builders separate from performers. Performers spend to signal progress. Builders save to create leverage. The discipline phase is invisible work. Like roots underground. No leaves yet, no fruit yet, but depth is forming. Compounding does not reveal itself early. It hides. At first, growth feels linear, painfully linear. You add, you wait, you add again. The curve stays flat. This is where most people misjudge the process. They think compounding is broken. It is not active yet. Compounding responds to mass, not effort. Once capital reaches critical density, momentum appears, not gradually, suddenly, but only if discipline remained intact. Discipline is not restriction. It is direction. Every dollar saved is a command to your future, a vote for freedom, a refusal to be rushed. Saving aggressively is not about deprivation. It is about clarity. You are deciding what matters now, so everything matters later. This phase trains your emotional relationship with money. You learn that security is not consumption. It is control. You learn that peace does not come from spending. It comes from margin. Margin changes how you breathe, how you sleep, how you decide. People underestimate the psychological shift. Once you experience margin, you do not chase returns blindly. You protect position. This is why you only need to get rich once. The goal is not constant winning. It is irreversible stability. Everything before wealth is preparation. Mental, emotional, behavioral. The discipline phase rewires your nervous system to tolerate delay without panic. It teaches you to act without immediate reward, to trust process over emotion, to stay consistent when bored. Boredom is the test. Most people fail not from fear, from boredom. They want stimulation. They want action. They want proof. So they abandon the slow path for the loud one, and loud paths extract tuition. Discipline builds a different muscle, the muscle of restraint. Restraint creates optionality. Optionality creates power. Once capital reaches scale, risk behaves differently. Mistakes do not kill you. Opportunities do not require desperation. But none of that exists without the discipline phase. Think of forging metal. At low heat, steel bends poorly. At the right heat, it reshapes cleanly. The discipline phase is controlled heat, uncomfortable, necessary. It burns impatience out of you. Your mind will try to negotiate, to justify shortcuts, to rationalize spending. That voice is not evil. It is untrained. Training means repetition. Repetition means commitment. Saving first is a declaration. I pay my future before my present. That declaration reshapes identity. You stop asking what you can afford emotionally. You ask what aligns structurally. Structure beats mood. This phase also humbles ego. You realize progress is quiet. That wealth is built away from attention. You stop needing validation. You start needing systems. Systems free your mind. Once systems are in place, discipline becomes automatic. Automatic behavior compounds faster than motivation. Motivation fades. Systems endure. The first 100,000 is not slow because life is unfair. It is slow because it is filtering. Filtering who stays consistent without reward. Filtering who respects process. Filtering who can delay gratification without resentment. Those who pass do not struggle later. They navigate because by the time momentum arrives, identity is already aligned. You do not panic at volatility. You do not chase noise. You do not abandon structure. You have seen slow growth turn real. You trust time again. Time rewards discipline, not optimism, not intelligence, not intensity. Discipline. This chapter is not asking you to rush. It is asking you to commit. Commit to saving first. Commit to living below pressure. Commit to boring consistency, because boring consistency creates extraordinary outcomes. You do not need constant wins. You need one irreversible victory. Once you cross that threshold, everything changes. Money starts working harder than you do. Decisions feel lighter. Fear loses leverage. But none of it happens without this phase. Respect it. Honor it. Because this is where wealth stops being a dream and starts becoming inevitable. Stay disciplined. You are closer than your emotions suggest, and time is already working for you. Chapter 7. Circle of Competence and Rationality. Knowing what you do not know is more useful than being brilliant. Confucius. There's a moment in every serious wealth journey where intelligence stops helping you and starts endangering you. This moment does not arrive with noise. It arrives with confidence. You begin to feel capable. You begin to feel informed. You begin to feel sharp. And quietly, almost politely, ego steps into the room. Not loud ego, refined ego, educated ego. The kind that says, you understand this now. The kind that says, you can handle more. The kind that says, rules are for people behind you. This chapter is about the difference between being smart and being safe, between cleverness and wisdom, between knowing and knowing your limits. This is where wealth is either protected or exposed. Your circle of competence is not about intelligence. It is about clarity. It is a small zone where your understanding is deep, where cause and effect make sense to you, where outcomes do not surprise you. Outside this circle, danger does not announce itself. It disguises itself as opportunity. The problem is not ignorance. Ignorance is honest. The problem is partial knowledge paired with confidence. Intelligence without humility increases risk, because intelligence looks for patterns. And once it finds a few, it assumes mastery. Your mind loves to connect dots, even when the dots do not belong together. You read one book, watch one interview, have one win, and suddenly you feel fluent. Fluency creates speed. Speed reduces caution. Caution protects capital. This is how intelligent people lose money, not through stupidity, through overreach. They mistake familiarity for competence, exposure for expertise, confidence for control. Your circle of competence is not fixed. It expands, but it expands slowly, only through repetition, only through feedback, only through time spent in uncertainty without collapse. Staying inside your competence feels boring to the ego, but it feels safe to the future. This is why humility is not weakness. It is a defensive asset. Humility keeps you grounded in what you truly understand. It reminds you where your edge ends. And edges matter, because catastrophe lives just outside competence. One step too far, one assumption too many, one variable misunderstood, and years unwind. Staying inside competence prevents catastrophe not because it limits upside, but because it preserves survival. Survival is underrated. People chase winning without respecting staying, but staying is what allows winning to compound. Rational thinking beats clever thinking because rational thinking respects reality. Clever thinking tries to outsmart it. Clever thinking looks for shortcuts. Rational thinking looks for durability. Clever thinking asks, how fast can I grow? Rational thinking asks, how do I avoid ruin? These questions lead to very different lives. Rationality is calm. It is patient. It does not need to impress. Rational people are not flashy. They are consistent. They do not need to be right often. They need to be wrong rarely. This is a subtle shift, but it changes everything. Your mind has two modes, performance mode and preservation mode. Performance mode seeks expansion. Preservation mode seeks continuity. Most people live in performance mode emotionally. They want progress now. Wealth builders switch deliberately. They ask, what could destroy me? Then they remove it. They ask, what do I not understand? Then they stay away from it. This is not fear. It is discipline. Wisdom protects capital. Ego exposes it. Ego wants to prove. Wisdom wants to last. Ego asks, what is the smartest move? Wisdom asks, what is the safest move that still moves forward? This distinction becomes critical as wealth grows. The more you have, the more there is to lose. The more complex decisions become. the more tempting it is to believe you are above basic rules. Rules do not care who you are. Markets do not care about intelligence. They care about behavior. Behavior under pressure reveals character. Character determines outcome. Rational thinking slows you down just enough to see consequences. It asks uncomfortable questions. What happens if I am wrong? What assumptions am I making? What variables am I ignoring? These questions are not pessimistic. They are protective. Fire warms when contained. It destroys when unleashed. Intelligence is fire. Humility is a container. Without the container, brilliance burns everything it touches. Your circle of competence is also emotional. It includes knowing how you react under stress, how you behave when uncertain, how you decide when outcomes are delayed. If your emotions hijack your thinking outside a narrow zone, that zone is your competence. Staying within it is strength. Many people chase sophistication too early. They want complex strategies, advanced tactics, but complexity amplifies error. Simplicity amplifies consistency. Simple approaches repeated rationally outperform complex ideas executed emotionally. This is not about avoiding growth. It is about sequencing it. Expand competence before expanding exposure. Test small. Learn deeply. Scale slowly. This approach does not create excitement. It creates longevity. Longevity allows compounding to do the heavy lifting. This chapter is asking you to shift identity. From someone who wants to look smart, to someone who wants to stay solvent, from someone who wants to impress, to someone who wants to endure. Rational thinkers are not reactive. They are responsive. They do not rush into trends. They wait for understanding. They do not confuse activity with progress. They do not confuse motion with direction. Direction matters. Staying inside competence also requires saying no. Often, no to conversations you do not understand. No to opportunities you cannot explain simply. No to pressure disguised as urgency. If you cannot explain a decision clearly, you do not understand it. Clarity is the gatekeeper of rationality. The world rewards those who move fast visibly. It quietly rewards those who move correctly consistently. Most people never see the second group. They are too busy watching noise. Your job is not to be visible. It is to be correct over time. This requires humility daily. Humility to admit limits. Humility to delay action. Humility to walk away. Walking away is often the most rational move. Not every opportunity is yours. Not every path fits your skill set. Knowing what to ignore is more valuable than knowing what to pursue. Your future depends less on what you do, more on what you avoid. Avoiding catastrophe is success. Success compounds when nothing breaks. This chapter ends with challenge. Audit your decisions, not for intelligence, for rationality. Where are you stretching beyond understanding? Where are you trusting confidence over clarity? Where is ego whispering that you are ready when discipline says wait? Pull back. Strengthen foundations. Deepen competence. Sharpen rationality. You do not need to be brilliant. You need to be consistent. You do not need to win big. You need to avoid losing big. This is how wealth survives decades. This is how peace is preserved. This is how freedom becomes permanent. Stand inside what you understand. Grow it patiently. Protect it fiercely. Let ego starve. Let wisdom lead. And your future will thank you quietly. Chapter 8. Patience, decisiveness, and readiness. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. War. And Buffett. There's a season in every serious journey where nothing moves. No signals. No breakthroughs. No applause. Only waiting. And this is where most people lose their way. Waiting feels passive. It feels unproductive. It feels like falling behind. Your mind starts to itch. Your body wants motion. Your ego wants proof. So you act, not because the moment is right, but because stillness feels like failure. This chapter is about reversing that illusion, because lasting wealth is not built through constant action. It is built through long periods of preparation, followed by brief moments of absolute decisiveness. Patience is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of readiness. Waiting feels like failure because modern conditioning rewards noise. Activity looks like progress. Motion feels like momentum. Stillness feels invisible. But invisibility is where power gathers. In nature, growth does not announce itself. Roots deepen in silence. Pressure builds underground. Energy accumulates without witnesses. Only when the moment is right does the surface change. Your mind resists this process. It wants feedback now, validation now, results now. This urgency is emotional, not rational. Impatience is fear wearing ambition, fear of missing out, fear of being left behind, fear that time is running out. So people trade patience for activity. They trade readiness for motion. They trade depth for speed. And speed feels good until it costs. Frequent action creates the illusion of control. Rare action creates actual control. This is difficult to accept because it contradicts effort culture. You were taught that more effort equals more reward, that hustle equals progress, that movement equals growth. But wealth does not respond to effort alone. It responds to timing. Timing is invisible to the impatient. Rare opportunities matter more than frequent action because they carry asymmetry. Asymmetry means limited downside and meaningful upside. These moments do not appear daily. They appear when conditions align, when preparation meets opportunity. Most people miss them because they are tired from constant motion. They spent energy reacting to noise. They wasted attention on distractions. They drained capital on impatience. So when the moment arrives, they are not ready. Readiness is not confidence. It is capacity. Capacity to act without hesitation. Capacity to commit without panic. Capacity to endure uncertainty without retreat. Readiness is built in stillness. Stillness sharpens perception. It refines judgment. It trains restraint. While others chase stimulation, you observe. While others react, you prepare. While others rush, you wait. Waiting is not passive when it is intentional. Intentional waiting is training. You are training your nervous system to tolerate delay. You are training your mind to separate urgency from importance. You are training your emotions to stay neutral under pressure. This training is rare, which is why decisive people stand out. Decisiveness is not speed. It is clarity. Decisive action looks fast from the outside, but it is slow thinking made visible. By the time decisive people move, the decision was already made internally. They do not debate in the moment. They do not hesitate at the edge. They step forward fully because they already did the work. Long stillness precedes clean action. This is the rhythm of lasting wealth. Periods of apparent inactivity, followed by moments of bold commitment. People misunderstand this rhythm. They think patience means hesitation. They think waiting means weakness. It does not. Waiting without readiness is avoidance. Waiting with readiness is power. The difference is subtle, but everything depends on it. Readiness requires clarity of standards. You must know what you are waiting for, not vaguely, precisely. What conditions matter? What risks are acceptable? What outcomes justify action? Without standards, waiting becomes drifting. With standards, waiting becomes targeting. You are not waiting for luck. You are waiting for alignment. Alignment between knowledge and opportunity, between capacity and moment, between risk and reward. This alignment rarely lasts long, which is why readiness matters more than speed. When the moment arrives, hesitation is expensive. The patient who prepared acts instantly. Others watch, question, second guess, and the window closes. This is why patience and decisiveness are not opposites. They are partners. Patience gathers information. Decisiveness converts it. Patience builds strength. Decisiveness releases it. Fire behaves this way. Heat accumulates quietly. Then ignition changes everything. But ignition without heat fails. This chapter is asking you to examine your relationship with waiting. Do you escape stillness through action? Do you confuse motion with progress? Do you fear quiet because it forces reflection? Stillness reveals gaps. Gaps in preparation. Gaps in confidence. Gaps in clarity. Most people avoid stillness because it exposes these gaps. But exposure is instruction. What stillness reveals, you can train. You sharpen skills. You strengthen systems. You build reserves. You become ready. Readiness also changes how you perceive time. Impatient people feel chased by time. Patient people partner with it. They understand that rushing shortens timelines, that errors cost years, that restraint preserves optionality. Time does not reward speed. It rewards durability. Durability is built through patience. This does not mean you wait forever. It means you wait correctly. You wait until the odds shift, until clarity replaces hope, until preparation meets moment. Then you move, fully, decisively, without apology. Decisive action is rare because it requires emotional neutrality. You must act without fear of outcome, without attachment to approval, without hesitation rooted in self-doubt. That neutrality is trained during stillness. Stillness strips emotion from decision-making. It allows logic to surface. It allows pattern recognition to mature. It allows intuition to sharpen. When action finally comes, it feels clean. No drama, no rush, no noise, just alignment. This is how wealth moves quietly but powerfully, not through constant effort, through correct effort. This chapter closes with a recalibration. Stop measuring progress by activity. Measure it by readiness. Ask yourself, am I preparing or distracting? Am I observing or reacting? Am I strengthening foundations or chasing motion? Choose stillness without guilt. Choose patience without fear. Because stillness is not empty. It is full of potential. And patience is not delay. It is strategy. When your moment arrives, and it will, you must be ready to act without hesitation. That readiness is built now, in silence, in discipline, in restraint. Long stillness followed by decisive action defines lasting wealth. Train for that rhythm. Honor it. And when the time comes, step forward without doubt. Your future is waiting for your readiness. Wealth after 40 is not built by force. It is built by restraint, not by speed, by consistency, not by brilliance, by fewer errors. Time still works for you, only if you respect it. Start now. Protect compounding. Control behavior. Face reality. Stay patient. Go to bed wiser than you woke up. Repeat. That is the truth about getting rich after 40.